Hey everyone, Alex McCracken here again. Appreciate you joining us today. We're going to be talking about the 4 different types of content strategies that funeral homes and cemeteries can do on their Facebook page. Without further ado, why don't we just jump into it? So, the first off is obituaries. I think a lot of people are used to this one. Obituaries, a lot of funeral homes and cemeteries will have their website providers able to automatically post obituaries from their website onto their Facebook page, right? And I'm not going to say that this is the best strategy, but it certainly is a strategy. Let's look at some of the pros and cons of this. So first off, pro, it's easy, right? Because everybody is able to automatically post these onto your Facebook page, it doesn't really take a lot to execute this strategy. It also works well in small markets. I would consider a small market for this case about 20,000, maybe 15,000 people and less, okay? So it's really great if you're in a small market where there's a lot bigger sense of a community. You can also get social validation from this. So social validation on an obituary means, let's say you served the mayor's family, right? Well, everybody's going to be looking at that obituary, and you can actually show, hey, my firm is the one that was chosen above all the other ones to serve this family. And really, you're going to be promoting that on Facebook. People are going to see that, and it really gives you a lot of social validation from that. It's also easy to understand, right? It's easy to understand because it's the most traditional in what you're used to, right? So if I were to say, hey, a strategy, all you have to do is post obits, it doesn't take a lot for you to understand what that might mean. So it's really easy to do, easy to understand. But there are definitely some cons associated with posting obituaries. First off, it limits your audience, okay? People do not like to be reminded about death every day. So if you're posting obituaries all the time on there, you're really gonna limit the age bracket of people who are gonna be paying attention to what you're putting out there. Second off, it doesn't actually help the community, right? You're gonna be showing people that you're helping the families that you're serving, but an individual in the community isn't better off because you're putting out a post or an obituary, right? You want to make sure that you can provide a little bit more help for the community. It's also ineffective in large markets. So if you're going to a market of 15 or 20,000 and more, it's just there's not as strong of a sense of a community there, and so posting obituaries doesn't really help in those larger markets as it does in a smaller market. I would also bundle in this, if you're serving, let's say 250 to 300 families or more per year, you're going to be having too many obituaries going out on your Facebook page, and it's really going to clutter it up, and it's constantly going to remind people about death. And so it's just too much if you're serving that many families a year. It's also easily copied, all right? So since it's so easy to do, that means anyone can copy you and do the same thing. So we're talking about your competitors here. Competitors can easily go and post obituaries. And unfortunately, what this means is you're gonna get little to no brand recognition from doing that, right? You're not really setting yourself apart in the community. You're just falling in line doing exactly what your competitor down the street does. So those are some main pros and cons about obituaries. Next up, we're gonna look at relatable posts. Relatable posts are the posts that are more like maybe putting in a caption from a poem or a quote, or just something, some type of feel-good phrase or something that people can relate to. Now, relatable posts have some pros and cons, right? One is they feel comforting. It's comforting for you and for the community member to say, hey, I really relate to that and I can understand. But another great thing about this is baby boomers absolutely love these posts. These are the posts that baby boomers love to go on to their Facebook page, share it, comment on it, tag their friends in it. So those go really far when you're targeting baby boomers. It's also easy to find content for this, okay? There's a lot of providers out there, including Funeral Innovations, that provide this content, right? But if you want to do it yourself, it's easy to go in and find images or quotes or anything online. There's tons of content out there for you to be able to make these relatable posts. But the cons with this is, one, it's not personal, right? So you're really not creating a personal relationship with your community by putting out relatable posts. And in effect, it doesn't create those strong relationships, So you want to make sure that you're having another way to create those strong relationships. Relatable posts don't always do that. It's also, what's the business goal, right? So as we tell every funeral home and cemetery, when you start with Facebook, you need to be setting some goals, okay? And if your goals, let's say are to position yourself as the trusted advisor within the community, relatable posts aren't going to be doing that. So you need to see what your business goals are for Facebook and see if relatable posts are going to help you with that. All right, next category of posts are the look at us posts. These posts are what we consider posts like maybe staff profile pics, or showing that you are helping with a Toys for Tots drive, or maybe attending the Veterans Day parade. Any of the things that you're doing within the community. I would also put in here things like reviews. So if you're putting up a review, a family told you how good you're doing and how well you serve their family, that's definitely a look at us. So there's a lot of different content you can do this, including things like, I've seen some funeral homes who are replacing some of the plants or carpet or painting new rooms in the funeral home. Just the daily activities that you're doing that really humanize you within the community, those are the types of look at us posts that I'm talking about here. And there's definitely pros and cons to this, right? One is this is very easy to execute, okay? So you're just gonna be taking pictures of things you're doing, right? If you feel that it's supporting the community, take a picture of it, boom, you've got your post for the look at us type of content. Now, one of the things I see is that there's a lot of funeral homes that like to pay to get a company to create a local post like this for them. And they'll pay big money for that. They'll say, hey, take a picture of you at the Toys for Tots drive and we'll make a professional looking post and put it out on Facebook. You don't need to pay for that. I'm going to tell you right now, if you have a picture and you take one, all you have to do is post that out there and say what you're doing. You don't have to spend a lot of money to make it into professional looking posts. Now that doesn't hurt, but don't overdo it. If you don't have the budget to have somebody make a professional post, don't stress, take the photo, put it out on your Facebook page, just get that information out to your community. And what else this does is it also feels good. You're showing the community, hey, here's how we're supporting you, here's how we're helping you, here's the things that we're doing within our community to make it more, more personal in what you're doing with the community. It's also easy to understand. If I tell you, go and just take pictures of everything you're doing, not really anything to mess up with understanding that. But it also works in markets of all sizes, right? So you can go to a market of 1 million people, 5 million people, or 50 people. So any of the markets that you're going to be serving can be served with this type of content strategy. Now there are some cons with this. This does require active execution. No one's going to take that picture of you at the Veterans Day parade for you. You need to be taking it. You need to be remembering what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Document it. Have people within your funeral home document it. Any of your staff members can help you with this strategy as well, but you do have to be active with it. Another thing, this is very self-serving strategy, okay? The activities you're doing might actually be helping and actually are helping out the community, but you're not helping the community by saying, hey, look at what we're doing. The actual act of what you're doing helps, but you promoting it and saying, hey, look at us, does not help the community, okay? And that's a big point about this. There's a fine line by saying, hey, here's how we support the community, and seeming too narcissistic and saying, here's everything we're doing. Why aren't you guys paying attention? Look at what we're doing and all the great things we're doing. This also requires a following. You need people who know you to actually see what you're doing and say, hey, I know this staff and I'm gonna like them because of that, right? So you require a following on your Facebook page and a little bit more of a connection to get this content strategy actually up and running and going. All right, fourth type of post, as I promised you, is educational. Okay, educational is when you're going to be providing the information that you hold as a funeral director. Okay, so we want to take that information and we're going to make a post about it, promote it to the community. This can be all sorts of things. What are the things you need to know about pre-planning? What are the different stages of grief? What can you do with cremated remains? Did you know you can put cremated remains into a firework and shoot it off into the sky? That's an educational type of post. There's also things like teaching them about veterans benefits or wills or estate planning. So think about all those different types of educational things. What we always tell our funeral homes is, if you get asked a question in an arrangement process, write down that question. Okay? You're going to write down that question, and then when you have time, make a post about that question that you're asked. If one person in your community asked you that question, I guarantee you there's others who still want to know that information. Another thing is, if you're trying to think of educational content, think about what topics you wish everybody in your community knew that you know they do not know. Okay? So a lot of times I see this with a viewing. What is the importance of a viewing? Well, you want people to know about that ahead of time, and you want to educate them on that, but you know they don't know. So let's get ahead of the curve and let's go out there and say, here's the information you need to know. Now there's pros and cons with both of these, okay? It's going to cement you as the expert. So that's a great thing to have. You are now the trusted advisor in the community. You are submitted as an expert, and now people say, hey, if I have any death care related questions, this funeral home is going to be the one to serve me. You're also focused on the community with this. You are serving the community with something of value. You're saying, hey, I know you have these questions. I know it's taboo to talk about death, but it doesn't have to be. How about I provide you this educational information, and you can now open your mind and your conversations to talking about what was once taboo. So we're really breaking down taboos by showing this educational information onto your Facebook page. It's also in line with what the marketing that people are used to. So people don't go to a car lot and say, hey, give me a car. Almost always you have a specification. I've heard that there are cars that have 25 miles per gallon or better. Those are the information, facts that people got before they went to a lot, okay? So we can do the same thing here. It's what people are used to marketing. They're used to learning about stuff online before going into making a decision, okay? So it's what people are used to, and we can conform to that. Now the cons of this is it's much harder to execute, okay? It's gonna take you actively writing down the information that you have in your head and that you're used to telling families verbally, and writing it down and making a post out of it. Similarly, it's time consuming. So you can't just go in and do this in 5 minutes. It's gonna take a while to write this information, get it down, and have it in a readable format that your community member wants to interact with. Now, because of this, because it requires all the information that's in your head, don't think that you can execute this with your front desk person that's only been working in the funeral industry for 2 weeks. You can also not just give it to some young person down the street. We have a lot of funeral homes that come to us after working with a local ad agency and say, they just didn't understand the funeral industry, and they put out a lot of offensive posts that you wouldn't think would be offensive, but because we're dealing with such a sensitive topic here, it was. So you need to make sure that you're using industry expertise to make those posts and know what they're talking about. So those are the 4 different types of content, okay? Now these are very effective when you combine them all together. So don't think that you need to just commit to one. Take all of those, put them together, and it'll give you a lot more content, a lot more ideas, a lot more things to put out on your Facebook page. So if you stay with us next week, what we're going to be talking about is how to come up with ideas and create actual posts with those ideas. Okay, there's lots of ways. We touched on a couple today, but we're going to dive deeper into the different ideas and how to create those, and then how to actually use software and things on the internet to create a post that doesn't steal content, that isn't illegal, and that achieves the results that you're looking to achieve on Facebook. So stay tuned. We'll be back next week. Thank you. All right, guys, as promised, at the end of every video, we're giving away some free resources. So what you can do is you can email me at alex@funeralinnovations.com. On the top of your email, I want you to write 4 different types of posts. And what we're going to do is send you some information that has those posts in it and what those look like, so you can use them today with your own funeral home.